Alright, come join Kyle, John and David as they go through what's on the playlist, find out what's everyone's favourite at Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment. We have a few segments, to be honest, in and out points, no celebs and the gossip, back in time where we're talking about the big M's coming attractions, what the queue, quick checks, who'll be laughing, you abundantly. Welcome to Dual Redundancy.
Yes, welcome to Dual Redundancy, the only podcast we hear all latest in television and entertainment news with too many else with exactly the same opinions. I'm one of those hosts, David Allen, and another one is
John Berwick, and a third one is
Kyle Bridger. I would say that I am the Kaleidoscope to John's Glass Onion to Dave's Avatar, The Way of Water.
I'm wearing blue. Should I just dump this on me right now all over the microphone and just... No, yeah, so... Oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about tonight. Yeah, all the colors of Kaleidoscope, the very deep blues of Avatar, and I guess the transparency of a glass onion. A lot to get to tonight. Oh man, a lot to catch up on. It's our first show of the new year. John, what's the first segment?
in and out points. And you'll have to bear with me because I didn't prep any audio today. Ready?
Oh.
In, order out. In, order out. In, out.
Oops.
Yeah, John, you can't have those kind of mistakes on a Christopher Nolan project. And that is our first in and out point tonight here. All right. In our last mini episode, we shared our most anticipated, movies and TV shows of 2023. And one of those was Oppenheimer. We're getting excited for the Oppenheimer movie in July, the latest Chris Nolan film here. And there's a bunch of articles already coming out giving us some more details about the big film. Chris Nolan told Total Film about some of the challenges of shooting said film. Quote, "I think recreating the Trinity test, the first nuclear weapon detonation in New Mexico, without the use of computer graphics was a huge challenge to take on. Andrew Jackson, my visual effects supervisor, I got him on board early on and was looking at how we could do a lot of the visual elements of the film practically, from representing quantum dynamics and quantum physics to the Trinity test itself." So he's recreating it with my team, Los Alamos, up on a mesa in New Mexico in extraordinary weather, a lot of which was needed for the film in terms of the very harsh conditions out there. Those were some huge practical challenges. I'm going to need more details, I think, guys, because in this statement, let me just read over something again. I think the Trinity test, the first nuclear weapon detonation in New Mexico, without the use of computer graphics was a huge challenge. So we're doing this practically, huh? We're going to do some actual nuclear explosions, Chris.
Why not?
But the thing is like, I don't know what the Trinity test is, but do we know how big that was? I know we know nuclear weapons weren't as, like the explosions weren't as big, or the effects of them weren't as big as they are now, because it's like different.
Yeah, that is true.
Different bombs, but so I don't know how easy it is to fake a nuclear bomb from back then in comparison to like
who
whatever
says anything
weapons
with
we
faking
have
it
now.
with Chris Nolan at the helm here.
So the Trinity test was one of our first actual nuclear explosive tests. So we have pictures and we have video of that actual test, like actual and measurements and all that. So we have all the parameters. It's just
and
how
you can't
do you
use that?
Yeah, well,
that wasn't shot in IMAX.
No, that was shot on film, I think, which I guess is IMAX still film? I guess it depends on who you ask, but yeah, it's not quite up to Nolan standards, maybe.
Yeah, well,
not suitable.
It'll look fine on my Game Boy. Okay?
Yeah, I was gonna say not suitable for a Game Boy. So we do have documentation of how big it was and what it looked like. It's more of a matter of how does he want to translate that into the movie world where things are 20% bigger and HD and we'll see.
Yeah. It's just always a while. I mean, to go back, he crashed a real 747 for Tenet. He flipped over a tractor trailer for The Dark Knight. It's like, yeah, of course the joke was when he, announced Oppenheimer. It's like, oh, is he going to start, detonating bombs? It's like, oh, it looks like he is. He's in some way or another. He's going to blow up some things, it looks like. So God forbid, he doesn't have another, big spectacle, film. I want to do COVID the movie. Let's reintroduce contagions, to the world. But
well, I mean, when you see what budgets are, or what producers and are okaying in budgets. I mean, look at the Mission Impossible, where they had to be killing, bike after bike after bike after bike of just for this single shot of Tom Cruise coming off that.
It was a
that
sick
ramp.
shot, though. I mean,
I know it is sick, but it's like, think about how much money. I mean, in the overall scope of a huge blockbuster film, I bet like a $2,000, dirt bike isn't really going to make it.
Buy a used one at that point.
$600,
fix it up. It only has to run for 45 seconds. Like,
yeah. I'm really curious. Like, with blowing things up, it's like, well, what's that doing to the environment? Take after take after take after take.
Yeah.
But already
also,
we got global warming and carbon emissions and stuff like that. So
yeah, I don't know. But what do they? I mean, they probably just think, we're in the desert. We just blow up anything we want.
Yeah. I heard of two folks that cook some meth out in the desert, and things were fine for a year or two, and then.
You saw that documentary too?
I did, yeah. But all right. So we'll have to wait and see what else is going on with Oppenheimer in July. What else Chris Nolan has up his sleeves.
Dude, I'm excited about the film. I think it's gonna be good.
It's gonna be good, I think. The cast, obviously the visuals. I'm excited to see it, especially maybe on a big screen. Maybe at AMC, and I could use my new AMC credit card. AMC Theaters, the biggest theater chain in the country, is launching a credit card. The AMC Entertainment Visa card, coming in early 2023, will offer its holders the opportunity to earn additional AMC Stubs rewards at the movies and on their everyday purchases. It's the only co-branded movie theater credit card in the United States. Yeah,
who wants it?
Because who wants this?
Yeah, who wants a credit card from a possible entity that's going to go under? At any moment. Who wants to be associated with that?
Or also start inquiry on their credit report too when you sign up for a new card.
And
you're giving your money to someone who's like belly up already. Like, what's going on?
Yeah. And it's like I think you would have to be a super movie person in order to want to go for this kind of thing. If all it is like extra stubs points, it's like, all right, thanks.
Oh, you can upgrade your medium popcorn to a large now.
Yeah,
because you spent $200 at whatever.
So I wonder, will this be better than getting like a credit card with like a high points reward thing and just getting gift cards? Like, they can't be offering anything better than what, like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know people who have like company cards. They use the points for whatever because it's their company. How, you're purchasing a couple $1,000s worth of equipment. You're getting a couple, 10, 15, $20 worth of credit card points. You could buy whatever you want. You could buy the DVD when it comes out for the same price as a ticket and watch it forever. Like, I don't know.
Also, what happens if you try to use the AMC card at Regal? Or Alamo.
Instant decline. You cut it in half. Yeah. It might not even work at an AMC. We're not even sure if it'll work. But I just love that AMC is doing nearly everything they can to make money instead of actually fixing the movie-going experience.
Yeah.
Like, I have a list of things that they've been up to. We talked about a few on the podcast. They pretty much embraced the whole status of being a meme stock. They invested in some Nevada-based gold and silver mining company. They're selling popcorns in shopping malls, and we discussed a few weeks ago the partnering with Zoom to have these work meetings in the theaters. But we saw, I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit here, but this kind of goes with the whole movie-going experience. We saw Avatar 2 at an AMC theater, all three of us together here. That's a 3 hour and 12-minute movie. Instead of going right to the movie that we paid to see, we sat through 30 minutes of trailers.
Yeah, it might have been close to a little bit over that.
Yeah,
even.
it was more than that.
Yeah. Well, I think it was like 30 minutes of trailers,
Mhm.
the majority of which were preaching us, about the power of movies. The Creed 3 trailer was all about how Michael B. Jordan just talked about the love and the passion he put into this film and how it deserves to be on the big screen. And then after that, you get the rules of AMC Theaters, prepare to enter the IMAX zone with all the countdown
Put
stuff.
your glasses on now.
Yeah.
And then that Nicole Kidman heartbreak feels good in a place like this ad.
Dude, I think that should be one of the rewards you get for the credit card. You use so many points and you get Nicole Kidman coming in.
Oh, well, that'd be pretty good. Yeah, sit next to you at AMC. But this is an ad at an AMC theater for AMC theaters. Like,
Yeah.
We're already watching a movie inside AMC.
Yeah.
This would be like if you're going to McDonald's and you get to the counter and they're like, before we can take your order, watch this. And on the kiosk, they show you a McDonald's ad. It's like, yeah, I'm already here. I'm going to get this food. I'm watching this movie. Like, but yeah, I don't know. It's just like during these 30 minutes, I went to use the restroom and I saw the concession line. It was so huge at the movie start. But then I was like, you know what? There's still 45 minutes before the 3.5-hour movie starts. They'll be fine. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God.
It was way too many. There's a restless point, and you can feel it in the crowd too, where it's just like, wait, another one? And then another one pops up and you're like, wait, another one? And then by a certain point, you're like, come on.
Yeah.
Get to the movie already.
I had my large popcorn pretty much finished by the time the movie started. Like,
and it doesn't help that they had one or two really good trailers and the rest were just terrible. Like we talked about before, the Mission Impossible one was great. That got me hyped up. And then I had another 20 minutes of nothing to cool down before the movie started. It's like, I'm feeling great. Go to the movie. I want to, I'm like, let's go. And then nothing.
Yeah.
Got to see Nicole Kidman talking. Like, all right, cool.
Yeah. I don't know. How long are we going to see this? And at least update it. They're still having like Jurassic World footage in this one. Like, do a new movie. Put some of these newer ones. Mission Impossible in the green screen it in. But so this Visa card, if you can make it through and actually, watch all the trailers and watch the movie and actually get out of the theater to get said Visa card. The CEO said, quote, "The AMC Entertainment Visa card is another example of AMC's continued dedication to providing real value to moviegoers and strengthening the relationship we have with our loyal movie-going guests. Until now, the theatrical exhibition industry is one of the few untapped major retail sectors that hasn't offered consumers the opportunity to amplify their purchase power, accelerate their rewards, and demonstrate their loyalty through the use of a co-branded credit card. With a built-in customer base of tens of millions of existing AMC Stubs members, we know there are avid moviegoers who will benefit greatly from using the AMC Entertainment Visa card at the movies and for their everyday purchases."
I mean, sure, I guess.
That's such a quantified thing.
Yeah.
Like,
and
nobody else does all this with a credit card. Like,
yeah.
Here's the detail. If you spend $50 in the first 3 months, you get 50 AMC Stubs bonus bucks.
Ooh.
It's like, this reminds me of The Office. It's like, well, you can get a Shroot Buck. And it's like, well, I want a Stanley Nickel. How many Stanley Nickels are in a Shroot Buck? It's like, none of this, the AMC Stubs bonus bucks doesn't mean anything. Like, at any point, they could just change the ratio on the Stubs bonus bucks.
Yeah.
It's like, well, actually, the popcorn that was 5 is now 10. Now it's 50. Now it's 500.
Or just end the program.
Yeah, that too.
That's what I'm worried about, is like all these people buying in and then they just absolutely tank. Which, I mean, the writing seems to be on the wall if this company is trying to maximize their revenue in just the strangest of ways.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay.
And I feel like, oh, good, Kyle.
No, I was just gonna say, I mean, it's not unique to places like that. I mean, like Kohl's and all these shopping places have their own cards, but it's just like, if you have to go to this route to get your money, it shows how bad it is, you know?
Yeah, well, people are desperate for money. They'll do anything they can. And, our final out point is about, we might have talked about it in the past, but since it is a billion-dollar industry, or at least possibly a billion-dollar industry, it bears repeating. Virtual product placement, or VPP, it could be set to become big business for entertainment companies. And according to a new report from an insights firm, Radical, companies stand to earn $6.6 billion annually on just pre-existing legacy titles using virtual product placement. So virtual product placement, it sees kind of paid for products and brands placed into shots in post-production, effectively an alternate to traditional advertising. They could alter anything after the fact in new shows, in old shows, in that billboard in the background, that product in someone's hand. They can completely add in more products and ads to stuff just in post.
Man, this seems like it's opening a can of worms, and I'll explain in a little bit. But is that it?
Well, I mean, I was just gonna say, like, it's been around actually for a while. It hasn't really taken off yet, but Radical crunched some numbers and found that companies like CBS's owner, Paramount, would be estimated to make the most of any of the companies here, with $412 million annually just by using this virtual product placement in legacy titles. And they found that it's because research shows that genre shows as like sitcoms and procedurals are better suited to include this integration than like a sci-fi or fantasy show, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Paramount's deep library of cop shows, is easy to add this stuff in instead of like Star Trek. You can't really add in, the M&Ms in the background of that. But yeah, Kyle, your thoughts on this?
Well, to me, I think if you're a creator, shouldn't you be shouldn't you have say about what's going into your whatever you've created? I mean, if I was a director or writer, I would want to know, what's going into the thing I created. It seems like it's opening a big can of worms there. Is it just the producers and the companies that have final say over this, or do creatives have any say? The second thing I'm thinking of is if it's like a green screen thing, right? We have a bag of whatever on the table, and it could be swapped out for M&Ms, or how long does that agreement last? Yeah. Can 10 years from now, when Seinfeld is still running, can now M&M's competitor now come in and be placed in that? It's like, because when I was working in like commercials, it would be like this thing holds a conflict. Like if you want M&Ms, you can't do, another candy bar, or if you're doing McDonald's, you can't do Burger King. So when does that run out? Like if I have
Reese's Pieces in ET, like you can't now retroactively add in M&Ms. Like that was a big thing for them, that big get in the 80s. It's like, oh, well, it's been 40 years. We're going to upgrade it to M&M's peanut butter or something,
Yeah, but like, I mean, we have a joke here. We have Pizza Hut in the background of Seinfeld, but if you have Pizza Hut in the shot, is Pizza Hut negotiating for that scene? Is Pizza Hut negotiating and saying you can't have Papa John's in the side? Like where how does this happen? How does this work out? It's just
There's many extra like versions that they're going to have to create. Maybe if you have a certain version on a streaming service, or maybe like a digital library, like a iTunes or whatever version of that is now, maybe it's like, oh, we're going to take that one off now. Now you don't have it. We're going to give you this one now because this now goes with our licensing agreement for Papa John's instead of Pizza Hut.
Yeah. Sorry, John, go ahead.
No, it's all good. One of the things I'm thinking about is you're watching Seinfeld, and we have a joke about the MacBook there. Like, are you going to keep things period correct? Are you always going to have the classic, Pepsi can? Is it going to be the old logo, or are you going to do their new logo that came out last year? And you're like, That doesn't look right.
Yeah.
Are you going to match the film grain, the texture, the lighting, the compositing?
Branding is very important. Like it's like, yeah, they'd rather have their new logo than their old logo, for brand awareness. And yeah, like I have a still from like Stranger Things. It's like, yeah, they have Coke here, but it's like maybe we'll switch it out to make it be Pepsi. It's like, we'll switch out brands, and it could affect like, maybe a character is known Kel loves orange soda, and it's like, well, let's change that now. It's like you're taking character traits or favorites of whatever. It just, I think, yeah, as you mentioned, Kyle, it's going to piss a lot of folks off. It's like the creators already are mad, with like Netflix for they're not seeing any of the money that they're now placing ads on their shows that initially didn't have ads and ad breaks. Now it's like, oh wait, I'm not going to get any of this money either. Now you're tampering with my show. You're cutting things around. You're making this obvious thing I'm holding in my hand now when it was more subtle in the beginning. It makes money, but it's going to piss a lot of people off.
Yeah, it just to me, I mean, when we eventually see this strike that's about to happen, there's so many avenues where revenue is coming in, and it feels like the creators and the actors and the people involved with the program are not making any money, but yet the companies are making loads of cash. So the company, in terms of Netflix, now making money off ads when they originally didn't have it. They're making subscriber money, and granted, they're letting the cash flow like crazy, but it's hard to cry poverty when you are maximizing all of these revenue streams and then giving very little back to, the people that are working on the project or canceling these shows.
Yeah. And that's a whole other conversation, all these massive cancellations that's been going on that Netflix has been a part of as well. And I think this is a good way to segue into seeing what is actually going on at Netflix here with What the Q.
What the is going on?
All right, so what we'll do this week is we're going to check in on some top 10s, and then we'll talk about one specific show in this top 10 list here. Let's see here. So I'll go 10 to 1, and we'll see if anything's jumping out at us in the top 10 TV shows as of right now. Number 10, The Recruit. 9, Emily in Paris. 8, it's Love Island again.
Yeah, dude.
7, Woman of the Dead, I believe. 6, Madoff. 5, Wednesday still. 4, New Amsterdam. 3, The Walking Dead. 2, Kaleidoscope. And 1, Ginny and Georgia. Anything in that top 10 jumping out to you, Kyle?
Well, it just always amazes me how much people love watching hot, trashy TV, and Love Island is always up there, dude. It's
a month or two ago, it was in the top 10, and here we go. Or no, that was Too Hot to Handle, or whatever.
Yeah, it's all the same stuff, I swear. But it's all the same idea. Emily in Paris, it's like the Oreos of entertainment, man. I think people know it's bad for you, and yet you still watch it.
Did that get a new season?
I think so. I think this is the one that's up here.
Yeah. That's why it's trending. Okay.
Probably.
Yeah. I'm actually happy to see Kaleidoscope trending just because it's a little different. New Amsterdam is a funny, interesting one. And Wednesday, I mean, it's still up there, and it was a force to be reckoned with when it came out. So I'm not surprised. I have not heard of Ginny and Georgia or the one at number 7. I don't know what that number on 7.
I don't know
Woman
that
of the
either
Dead.
yet. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. About 7 of them are actually Netflix originals, which is good. It's not going to be the same when we talk about movies in a minute, but okay, you got a lot of Netflix originals in the top 10. Good job, guys. One of those is our number 2 here on the list, and it's Kaleidoscope, and that's what we're going to be talking about a little bit tonight here. This 8-part series centers around a master thief and his crew attempting an epic heist worth $7 billion, but betrayal, greed, and other threats undermine their plans. Now, this show is very unique. It's being promoted by Netflix that it can be watched in any order. Now, each episode is labeled as a color, yellow, green, blue, etc. But white is intended to be the series finale, the last episode of the bunch. At least that's what everyone's been getting. And we all get a different episode order. And we'll talk about what we ended up watching, what episode orders we got, what we feel about the show, because this one's unique. Instead of us all watching the pilot of something, well, we all watched 1 or 2 episodes of this in a different order, and maybe have gotten different experiences, maybe have different reviews, because episodes could be better than others. So it's really going to be interesting here. I know for me, my list started with green and then yellow, and those are the 2 I watched. John, what did you end up watching?
I watched blue and orange, but those weren't the first 2 suggested to me.
Okay. And then Kyle, what did you end up watching?
Yeah, I only got to 1 episode, and I just watched Pink, but it wasn't the first episode recommended to me either. I just because I knew that you could watch different episodes, so I went to Pink, which in the order that it had, Pink was right before the season finale, which was White. And I knew, and I was heard on another pod that White was supposed to be the season finale. So I knew that I shouldn't watch that first. So I was like, oh,
they
let me
don't
just
make
try
that clear. I feel like they give that
They
little
don't.
like 2-minute black episode, that's what they call it, to kind of set up what this thing is.
Yeah.
They don't mention it's like, oh, save White for the end, because we can pull up the list. You know, everyone has their different orders here. Everyone gets a different order. There's people online saying watch it in this order. Is Pink like after the heist?
It says 5 months after, yeah.
Yes.
So you watched pretty much something that happened after the finale.
I don't want to dive into it, but that sounds like it would be full of spoilers. Like, I mean, don't tell us, but like, you have to have some indication of what happened and how well it went, like whether or not it went well. Like, I don't know. It seems so weird that as well as the morning after the red episode. So I don't know. I mean, obviously I'm going to watch those before White, but like, that's an interesting way to go about it.
Yeah. I mean, I saw it was after the heist, and well, I mean, we'll get to it when we talk about the episode, but yeah, it is unique. So I'm seeing in the chronological order. That's hilarious that I watched the last one, which is,
you could watch it completely backwards. You could do pink, red, white, blue, orange, yellow, green, purple. So I know John said like he has multiple profiles on one account here. You said each one was the same, right?
Correct. Yeah. So the order I had it in was the same as my brother's and the same as my mom's, the same as my other brother. So it seems like it's per family that I guess it randomizes, which kind of, I thought it was gonna do a little bit more randomization for me, kind of like how it suggests shows to watch. Maybe it would suggest an order that would be more compatible with me, but I guess either they choose an account and do that, or they just randomize it per family or whatever. Missed opportunity, I think. But on the flip side, if you're watching and like, you know, your brother starts watching it, it'd be cool to have the same order as them so you can kind of discuss it as you go. But at that point, you could also just watch with them, maybe. Like, I don't know. So, I don't know. It's an interesting choice, I guess.
And what I thought was interesting is like, you know, because what it seems like also, if you start anywhere in your order, like if you went to episode 3 on your list, it looks like it will probably just seamlessly play episode 4. So like in this scenario, if you're looking at the list, it's like, oh, I chose to start with yellow. Okay, it's probably going to go then yellow, orange, blue, white, red, pink. But like, you know, let's say you, for some reason, you know, you started with blue and then you did orange, and then I guess it's going to autoplay blue again because it's still going to go in that order. Like, it's still not like a completely random shuffle button. It seems like this is the order. It's different for everyone, but like we're going to go.
The Netflix rules still apply. It's still it's still a regular series where it plays them in order. It just happens to randomize your order beforehand, I guess.
Yeah. So we'll talk a little bit about each episode. We won't get into too heavy of spoilers because it sounds like John's really into this one.
I enjoyed my episode.
Yeah, no, I don't want to spoil anything. No, it's just funny because there's times when there's other things where it's like, oh, I don't want to spoil this, and John's like, spoil away.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care.
I don't care. There's some things I'm not going to watch. I do want to watch this, so.
All right, but yeah, so I got green and then I got yellow. I think I like green a bit more than yellow. So that's another interesting thing where it's like, you might get like a maybe not a dud of a premiere, but like, oh, maybe it's not as captivating as other episodes are to keep you going. But
maybe without the context of the episodes, it doesn't hit as hard.
that's true. But at least based off my two, it seems like each episode has its own like mini heist in a way before obviously the big one in the white episode. Like, you know, in the green episode, and not the, I mean, they are in prison and well, they have to do a heist later. So will they or will they not get out of prison? You know, so it's like a little maybe of a prison heist type episode. And at least from what I've seen of those two episodes, I like what they at least did with color in the episodes. Like the green episode, even if you forgot the name of it, you can remember because the prison outfit is green. The green lollipops they smuggled in, they're drinking Sprite. Like it's very specific, even though the green with the tan prison outfit, upstate woodsy New York is not the best choice if I was running a prison, but it works with the coloring of the show, which makes me interested because the original name of the show was called Jigsaw. It wasn't called Kaleidoscope. So it's like, did they already think of them doing this with color? Is any of the color added in post? You know, some color correction. You know,
yeah. But each episode seems to fade out to that. Not fade out. It more that color bleeds into the scene. Like I watched Orange, and there was a light in the background that just like saturated the scene at the end. And so I don't know. I feel like that would be pretty hard to plan, not plan ahead and still do that.
Yeah.
Unless maybe they reshot a couple things.
Maybe it's like they're telling you, it's like, this is the green episode. So you're just like watching, like picking up more on the green, like, you know, but yeah, so those were my episodes. Kyle, I guess, what do you think of the pink months after the heist or whatever?
I was a little lost a little bit, but I feel like they do a good job of giving you enough to where you feel like, oh, okay, I can kind of see what's going, the relationships. I think they still do a good job of connecting the relationships. And that's kind of that common thread. And helps you kind of stay with the story. And I think because I was after the heist, I was like, okay, so something happened here. Something went wrong. You know, like, I don't want to give too much away, but it's just like these characters are out of whack. I'm trying to pick up as many details as I can, but there is, I think, to go along with what you said, Dave, a little bit of a mini heist or a mini like jailbreak or like a mini like there's some kind of conflict happening within that episode that needs to be resolved in order for the other details to fit into place. And I think they do a good job of it sounds like they're going to do a good job of connecting them. And I liked some of the storylines that were involved. I just, it's getting those other details involved that, I'm interested in it. I'm interested.
Well, yeah. And then I'll ask John's episodes in a second, but like one of the things that like worried me about like the structure of the story, like is like this specific structure that you can watch in any order, would it make the story or the overall plot suffer? Because it's like, well, you have to maybe make it a little bit more basic for it to be a puzzle like this. You know, it's really hard to do an intricate, Chris Nolan type any order thing, make it all fit together in the end in any order. Because like, I like the green episode, but in the yellow episode, my second episode, I thought the dialogue was, especially when they were like talking with like the whole crew being together, almost felt like a B-movie heist, very stereotypical, like the lingo and just very like basic cable,
vague.
And then I won't get into too much of a specific spoiler, but there was this moment in the yellow episode where like one person is framed with a flash drive, and I figured, okay, it's X character, like that's just watching the show, I think it's definitely this person. It's the only person that knows that person. And then like the big reveal at the end of the episode is like we zoom in on that person's desk and it's a packet of those flash drives and one of them's missing, and it's like dun, dun, dun. It's like, yeah, I figured it was the only, yeah, of course, like 1 + 1 is 2, like, so that's why I was like worried. And maybe that yellow episode left a little bit of a like basic ending after just watching those two, but maybe like it would have worked better later, or maybe if I knew other context of something else. So like it's
I think it's one of those things where in that moment you might have been like, oh yeah, duh, but maybe it has bigger implications later on, and like it's hard to know without the full scope of it. And it's a great way to make people be like, all right, well, I watched this whole thing and I didn't like the connection, but guess what? I had to watch the whole thing in order to find out,
Yeah, they got you. John, what did you think of the 2 episodes you saw?
I enjoyed them. Blue was 5 days before, and then I watched Orange, which was weeks before. They didn't really give it a concrete time frame on that one, but I thought they were interesting. Kind of showed 2 different point of views. One seemed to be more on the heister side, and one seemed to be more on the team trying to catch the heisters. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I think my biggest concern is I'm gonna watch it, and it's gonna be all these different point of views and different time frames, and at the end, I'm gonna be like, no, I probably would have been better in order. That's my biggest concern. But I enjoyed what I've seen so far, and I want to watch more, and maybe it warrants rewatching it in a different order just to kind of see things unfold a different way and catch what you missed the first run through because it's fragmented. And I think when we originally discussed this a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago, I was kind of hoping it would be almost like, here's the 5 hours of the heist, and each episode follows a different person, and so you'd have overlap, but you'd see each piece of the puzzle pop in from a different area,
from different perspective, almost like what we're gonna get. Spoiler in our next movie we're gonna be talking about in a minute.
I didn't watch that one, so but that's kind of what I was hoping for, and I wonder if this format wouldn't work that way, but I wonder if doing that idea would produce a result that I'm a little bit more interested in, a little bit more invested in, I guess. But like I said, I enjoyed this. I intend to watch all of them. It's not like it's a 3-hour movie that I gotta sit down and watch in one chunk. I can absorb it at my own pace. So
the thing about this show is I think it requires intelligence by the audience, because you got to pick up a lot of context clues. I mean, I see a character right here on the right here. She shows up for about 5 seconds in the pink episode. No idea who she is.
Interesting.
But I know she's
like the star of the yellow episode.
So I know that she is like a part of this one character's life in a meaningful way, but I'm like, I have no idea who this person is at all. I mean, I could pick it up based on the context clues, but you got to trust that your audience is able to go there. I mean, I'm just thinking about people that I interact with on a daily basis. Are they able to do that? You know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, What's Up, Nikki said Kaleidoscope has good pacing and manages to get in a lot of exposition without feeling too clunky. So
yeah,
other people are liking it as well. Maybe I'll keep going with it. Maybe it's just the order I watched it in. Maybe I just need to try a different color, try a different episode here to get me back into it.
Maybe we need a group quick check when we're all done.
Yeah, that could be good. That could be good. Before we leave Netflix, I do want to just look at the movies real quick, because this is an interesting group. I'll go 10 to 1 again. 10 is looks like Transformers Dark of the Moon, Barbershop 2, The Longest Yard, possibly it looks like the remake with Chris Rock there. 7 is Grease, 6 is 10 Minutes Gone, and then we got 5 Trolls, 4 King Kong, 3 Life, 2 Glass Onion, we'll talk about it in a minute, and 1 The Pale Blue Eye. Now,
hang on before we start. Isn't DreamWorks associated with Universal?
It is. So
why is it on Netflix
and not on Peacock? Great question.
That makes no sense.
Half of these movies, not even half, 80% of these movies are not Netflix movies. You don't know?
King Kong is Universal, yeah?
I believe so. I mean, I think Transformers is Paramount, I think. Like, none of these,
That makes
except for
no
the first
sense.
two films, are Netflix films. And that's kind of almost like one of my like jabs here a bit here, because yeah, Glass Onion is still there. That's great. But it's missing this Noah Baumbach $100 million movie starring Adam Driver and Greta Gerwig that dropped just a week ago. And a week after Glass Onion, but it's already not in the top 10. They spent over $100 million on this film. Had some big stars in it out of the top 10 over Barbershop 2 and Longest Yard and Trolls and Transformers 100 or whatever, episode it is. But I did end up seeing this film. It's called White Noise. And I'll give a 30-second review because I don't know if I can do a full quick check on it. I'll say overall, I'm mixed on it. That's all I'll say. Because there's elements.
Thanks.
There's elements I loved about this film. There's like the production design should win the Oscar. The whole set design, the colors, so cool. There's an ending sequence in the supermarket, mesmerizing. I was like transfixed. I was watching it. But then there was also elements I found confusing, off-putting, pretentious. Like it's a grab bag of everything. And maybe it's because it's based on this very hard to adapt book. And supposedly there's a lot of genre switches, which I guess is true in this movie. There's parts that felt like a play. And then there's this airborne toxic event. Then there's a scene right after that pretty much was National Lampoon's Vacation, which I loved. It was a funny bit. And then we're back to being a drama. And Adam Driver's character is a Hitler study professor, and he gets into a lecture off with Don Cheadle's character talking about Elvis. Like, there's a lot going on.
It sounds like it.
So yeah, that's why I'm saying I'm mixed. It's just like there's parts I really, really liked, I was into, and then there's parts that I was like, all right, let's move on. And so it was like that for 2 hours, back and forth, ping pong ball. But
what you're trying to say is that's not even in the top 10, and it came out like last week, right?
Exactly. $100 million outside the top 10. Instead, they have, again, King Kong and, whatever, Trolls and all these movies that 10 minutes gone. I've never heard of this film, but it's not on Netflix. Grease. How many years has Grease been around?
Yeah.
Like, come on. But
well, surprised to see The Pale Blue Eye on there, which just came out recently. You would expect it to be on there, but it's not like a crowd pleaser, right? It's definitely like an Oscar baity type thing. Is that what I'm?
I guess I don't know much about it at all. I think Christian Bale. That's all I know.
Yeah.
But all right, so that's the top 10. There's a film number 2 on the list. Let's talk about it. In order to talk about it, we have to go back. So send us back.
Back in time.
We're back, baby.
Gotta get back in time.
All right, we got 2 movies tonight, and the first one is Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. It dropped in theaters November 23rd, but on Netflix on December 23rd. And it's our famed Southern Detective Blanc here, played by Daniel Craig. He's traveling to Greece this time for his latest case, and he's surrounded by new characters played by Edward Norton, Janelle Monáe, Catherine Hahn, Dave Bautista, Kate Hudson, and Leslie Odom Jr. Kyle and I saw Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. Kyle, what did you think?
I liked it. I love the character that Daniel Craig plays. It's just such a unique character. I like the introduction of Edward Norton's character. He's playing that like pseudo tech giant guy.
Very topical.
Yes, very much so. And I like how they kind of switched where this mystery was heading immediately by Benoit Blanc, blowing it up and then seeing where it went from there. But I think
might have been like the funniest, like one of the funniest moments. The film spends like 45 minutes setting up like Norton's big like weekend murder mystery event, and immediately like he solves it within like 10 seconds. It's just like, it's like, come on, man, really?
Yeah, it was really great. I mean, this is like an ensemble, a movie. It's a great ensemble movie. I love Dave Bautista in it. Yeah. Janelle Monáe is great in it, and I think That's what this movie centers around, is the characters, and I think they're all really well done. Especially Edward Norton's character is really, really well done. So I was a fan of it. I liked it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the twist at the end, there wasn't really much of a twist to me, but overall I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'd say I enjoyed it. The humor is still there. There's some
Yes.
really funny lines, really funny cameos. It's a well-written movie. Like, Ryan Johnson is a great filmmaker. I might have not loved it as much as like the surprise lightning in a bottle first one.
For
Like,
sure.
I thought that was just like such a surprise. It was hard to recreate that. I don't know if it's a theater versus watching it at home thing. Like, obviously I watched Knives Out in the theater, watched Glass Onion at home without an audience. Maybe it plays different, just, home versus Netflix. But yeah, you mentioned the big twist, and we'll talk about it a little bit here, I guess. So, the spoilers for Glass Onion, we are going to spoil this movie. That's your warning. Yeah, so this big twist in the movie comes about halfway through, and Janelle Monáe is not attending Norton's party as Andy Brandt, Norton's ex-business partner, but instead as Helen, her twin sister, investigating her sister's suicide, which she thinks was a murder. So then we get to see a lot of the film again with this reveal in mind. We see Blanc and Janelle Monáe's character kind of working together, her, in disguise, doing an accent to pretend to be this other person to figure things out. And I thought that was an interesting idea. Yeah, it was cool to see things from a different perspective. After that, though, I thought like it was pretty obvious, and maybe it was supposed to be that, again, spoiler, that it was Edward Norton.
Yeah.
His character. I mean, he had the clearest motive. I mean, it was, of course, it was him. It makes, like, of course, the ex-business partner trying to cover up, who had the right idea for the company and stuff like that. But it's like, but yeah, I mean, it sounds like you got it too. And like, is that the point? Like, I saw this, post about it, like a glass onion. I mean, it's a reference to the Beatles song, which is about people over analyzing Beatles lyrics. And it's like, well, if you keep peeling off the layers of a glass onion, well, you'll see that it was just transparent all along. Like, it was see-through. So maybe that was the whole part. Like, this time around, it wasn't like this big reveal that it was X, like the first movie was. But it's like, it's a different kind of mystery. Maybe I was just expecting, and I should have expected the unexpected, I guess,
Yeah, I mean, I guess sometimes it's the culprit that you suspect, I guess, all along. And I guess
what's the Dwight line where it's like, well, I think this person is the most obvious, so it's not that person. It's not the person I least suspect, so it's probably the person I medium suspect is the killer, So.
Yeah. But yeah. I still enjoyed it. But funny, I'm going to go back to what you said earlier. I watched Knives Out at home as well as Glass Onion, and I still like Knives Out a little bit better than Glass Onion. So I don't think it's a theatrical experience. But I will say something about this movie is like, it's very different than all the Marvel stuff that we've been getting and all that. So not that I hate Marvel, but it's just a basic, like,
it's original, it's creative,
with a twist and like building on an ensemble cast that isn't, in superhero outfits. It's
and you don't need to see 300 other movies to
you can get right into this. So I really liked it, and I think with the popularity, I think we're seeing people crave this type of movie more so. I mean, we know Netflix could have made a killing off of this in the theaters, but
we talked about it. And there's a third movie to come at some point. It's part of this $469 million Netflix deal they made for 2 films back in 2021. Twitter's having a lot of fun seeing, who's going to join this one. It's kind of like the White Lotus of these movies. Like, who's going to be in the next one here? I saw a lot of people saying like the Muppets, which would be awesome if it was just like Daniel Craig and like, the Muppets or, but and then I saw this thing with Ryan Johnson saying initially Daniel Craig was supposed to have like a different accent in each film and just not explain it. So like this, he had the Southern accent in the first film, and maybe like he would have a French accent in the second film, and just like
God,
just as like a joke. But just two quick points I just want to like mention real quick. One, we have this group in this film, this ensemble in the second film.
Mm.
One thing that took me out of it, this group would never, ever, ever be friends. Like, sure, they set it up that they were hanging at like this bar in their early 20s or 30s, but like, I just never bought it that like they're all just so different.
Yeah.
Like, you know, model Kate Hudson with the video gamer men's right activist Dave Bautista. It's like, no, like I know what you're trying to do here, but it's just it's not working. And then the other thing, which I thought was an interesting choice, was this film is set in 2020, like during the pandemic. So it like instantly dates the film. You know, COVID is here in this world. They do have this great joke through this cameo that Ethan Hawke does, and or it's like he comes in and pretty much like they lower their masks, they shoot like this little gun, and I'm assuming it's like he's super rich. He has the vaccine. He can give it to all of his friends when they go to this island. And then there's no more masks for the rest of the film. But it's just like, oh, this is like a choice for the first 20, 30 minutes. It's COVID and masks. And it's like, nope, no more. It's just, but just an interesting choice. But yeah, so that is Glass Onion. I'm sure we'll check out whatever the third one is, you know, in 2-3 years. But we have another film that we've been waiting on for God knows how long. Boy, we got a lot to talk about. Let's dive into it. Dive into the water. Avatar: The Way of Water. Jake Sully lives with his newfound family formed on the extrasolar moon Pandora. And once a familiar threat returns to finish what was previously started, Jake must work with the Na'vi race to protect their home. All right, we all saw Avatar: The Way of Water all together on a dual redundancy field trip. John, start me off. What did you think of the 3-hour film?
Sure, I've got some mixed opinions. I thought for the most part it looked great. You can tell that, you know, they're pushing technology to the max. The Way of Water, there's a ton of water that isn't cheap to render. And to make it look good and all that, including underwater, above water, wave simulations, that all is huge technologically processing, and it looks great. But I think that's kind of where my praises might end on this one. The story ended up kind of being a neutral, like net no gain. Like what he learned to swim, yay! Like that's it. That's the whole movie. Like you know, we'll discuss more, but obviously some spoilers. The guy they were trying to kill didn't die. They kind of only sort of escaped the danger, but not really. That's it. There's nothing else that happens. And that's really it. Like, why it didn't need to be 3 hours. That's the last one I had. This could have been edited down to probably an hour 45 and had the same effect and tell the same story and look just as good. And we wouldn't have to, you know, hold our pee for an hour and a half.
Yeah, this is a 3-hour movie, and I think we said it like the second hour was very unnecessary. And I'll get to what we could cut out and stuff like that. But I do want to talk a little bit about the visual effects because for me, 3D can be hit or miss. When I wasn't focusing on like wearing the glasses and such like that, I just zoned out. I found it like very like impressive. Like it all clicked, it all worked. I thought like the thing that worked the best with like was depth. Like you saw the little particles and stuff like that. At least for me, like that's just what clicked with me.
So can I hop in real quick?
Yeah.
I think the depth was the part I hated the most.
Interesting.
Because I wanted to focus on things and it pushes your focus. And it not ambient occlusion. The depth stuff gets out of focus, and that ended up actually giving me a headache.
Like I had to like zone out. I almost had to like cross the eyes, and like then I could like see the thing. Other times it was distracting to me.
When I left and got on the subway, I had a massive headache after it was over.
The thing I had the worst thing about was the motion of like the action. I mean, we watched it on one of the best screens in the country. Like it's the AMC Lincoln Square IMAX 3D. It's the only true IMAX in New York City, one of the best screens. And I felt like still like the action, like it was like this motion smoothing choppiness. I guess it was some frame rate thing, John. Like, but it was only some sequences. Like, I noticed it
Yeah.
most with the animals flapping their wings. Like, it wasn't all the time with the action.
Yeah, so I think from what I gathered reading a couple of things online and from seeing it is they filmed this at a higher frame rate, but played it back at a lower frame rate, I guess by dropping frames, which is normal. But because of that, the motion blur was different than it would have been if you had just filmed it at the frame rate you intended. And because of that, they added motion blur to certain things, I believe, and that just made things look wrong. And it kind of not hurt, but like it made your brain go a little bit,
It was
because
only some sequences. It wasn't all. Of them.
yeah, well, there's only some sequences, and it was like almost like a mixed. It felt like a mixed frame rate, even though it probably wasn't, because of the way they were processing. Is how I kind of was interpreting, reading, and from what I saw.
Yeah, it made it look like in certain action sequences that equipment bodies were moving in a way that we know don't move in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it made it either look slower or sped up in comparison to what our minds, thought that like I'm thinking of for instance, when we're on the water and something gets like toppled over, and it's like you would expect it to hit the water in a certain way, but it sped up. It sped up, and then it's landed in a position that I don't think that's the way that would have happened, but
Where I noticed that the most was the boats being launched onto rocks and how they tumbled on the rocks. They got like an inappropriate amount of spin based on the speed they were going and how they hit the rocks and tumbled. And definitely that was where I noticed it the most, was the action scenes where they were doing like physics sims almost, which I know I said the water looked great, but this is a different
yeah. I mean, there's no doubt this thing looks really cool. It looks like I'm watching a really, really cool video game. And because the frame rate is so fast, but it's not, when I go to the movies, I don't want to see a video game. I want, like, if I'm gonna watch like a cutscene, I want to be able to play in it in a way rather than just watch it. So it looks like a really cool video game. It looks impressive, but it's not necessarily what I want when I'm looking at a film. So when I think about Avatar, I'm like, this is really cool, but I don't think I'll ever see this movie ever again.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever watch this movie ever again. Like on my own here, like it just the story.
I only saw the first one in theaters once.
Yeah,
I'm probably
me too.
only going to see this one in theaters once, and because
it's the story, just like you guys, the story leaves a lot to be desired.
It's not going to play on TV, and I think we could really talk about the story. I mean, to boil it down, the plot is so similar to the first. I mean, Jake has to defend the home of Pandora in a way from the same threat of Stephen Lang's character, since he survived, I guess, the first one. And guess what? I guess for part 3, he survived this one. So it's like, what are we going to keep doing this over and over again? Like, and it almost feels like it's like less stakes than the first one, because the first one, it was like, okay, we're going to take over Pandora, like this huge military invasion over Pandora. This one, it was just like, okay, it's a smaller group of these military people coming to just get Jake. That was the mission this time. Get Jake. So it's like, it's even smaller stakes than the first movie, which is weird. And I'll say it still. I think the characters is some of the weak stuff of this movie. Jake is a boring lead, and I'm having a hard time connecting with most of these characters. Because, I mean, outside of Jake, I don't even know their names. Like, I've seen 6 hours at this point of these characters. I don't know their names. And Zoe Saldana has nothing to do in this movie from an acting standpoint. And then here's the thing I was laughing about, and I sent it to you guys. I saw an article after the fact of this film and how Kate Winslet broke some breath-holding record in some swimming sequence. And I was like, Kate Winslet was in this movie? Okay. Sure, I guess she
I
was
still
in it.
don't. I still don't know what character she was.
Yeah, it's just so it's like I don't the adult characters I have issues with. The kids, I don't. Anytime like like the prestige dramas, Homeland or whatever, when they like focus on the kids, it's always like the worst stuff. And I felt like this too. That's the second hour of the movie where it was like so much of like the kids being bullied and one of them befriending the whale creature, and it's like bring back the military guys at least. That's a stronger story at least than this detour. Like
the accents too for the kids. That was a
Yeah.
weird one where they changed
no,
accents.
Yeah, I brought up this point after the movie. Is like, wait, usually you have an accent from you've learned it through childhood in some way. All the kids had different accents and whatever. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. And the one kid had a different accent from when he was 6 than when he was from 16. I'm like, that's not how accents work.
Yep.
That's another thing. So I want to talk about Spider, which is I guess a human that was born on Pandora in like the first movie, and like because they sent all the humans, the sky people away, they couldn't send him because he was so young and he couldn't do the space travel as a baby. So he's stayed around, and we get this one scene, and then we jump a year later, and to me it looked like he aged like 7 years. I'm like, maybe time is different on Pandora. Maybe puberty is stronger in space. I don't know, but like this kid like grew like 10 years in that time period. But anyways, his whole character, I was having a hard time figuring out his motivation because he's working with this military group who are now avatars, in disguise pretty much, to know thy enemy is to be whatever the art of war is. And it's like I'm just confused of like what is he doing? Sure, it's your dad, quote unquote, that you're working with here, but like why did you save him? Like he doesn't he admitted he just doesn't care about you. You hissed at him. He tried to kill you and all the people that you know and love, but you save him to set up the third movie?
I'll repeat what I've been saying lately. What are the stakes? There's nothing happened the whole movie. We're back to square one. He's still alive. Like, oh.
And it's like, okay, we got a big death of one of Jake's kids. I don't remember the name of which one, but like
not the whale kid.
But did he die? Because it's like you just had a character die in movie 1, come back as an avatar, seemingly die again, only to survive for the sequel. It's like, what are we doing? Like, it's Stranger Things season 3 all over again. And I'll just leave it at that. It's just, I don't know. I just obviously we'll talk about the box office in a second, but like, I don't know how we're going to do this for so many more films. It's the same story.
Yeah, I might honestly, I might be done after this one. I just don't know.
You can't not see it. You've invested 6 hours of your life across 12 years.
No, I'm okay. I was thinking about this actually. I'm like, I might be done because the story is just okay. I mean, there's so many other avenues that you could look at for like imperialistic things that humans have done or bad things that capitalism has brought about or whatever that I could watch that are so much more on my own TV screen that are going to look way better than maybe something like this, which doesn't have play as well. I don't know. That's not to dismiss. This thing looks great, but it feels like this was just created for a theme park. Honestly, that's how I feel about it. I honestly feel
they created
like
the
James...
water world. Like this is like the next land inside of that theme park.
Yeah,
and in the Avatar 3, it may show evil Na'vi. And that they may be fire Na'vi, so it's like, okay, we're gonna go to Fire World next, or and it's just like, what's the story? Is it always just humans versus like whatever, Jake and Pandora's resources? We're gonna do this for 4 more movies. It's just, I just need more from it, but audiences are loving it. It needed a lot to break even, and it certainly got a lot. So far, as of this recording, 516 million domestic, just under 1.2 billion international, for a total of 1.7 billion worldwide so far.
And how much did it need to break even? Wasn't it like
I think it was estimates were around like 2 billion, and I think like it's the movie always starts slow. And like it even debuted like below expectations with 134 million domestic, but like it's just been, there's not much out there. It has all the premium screens. Not much is coming until Ant-Man in February. It's like, okay, it has a clear runway. It's going to keep doing well. It's already the number 7 on the all-time list. It's just under Spider-Man No Way Home, just ahead of Jurassic World. It's still 1.2 billion from the top spot from the original Avatar. But all this means,
I just wonder with a stronger box office, if this particular film doesn't,
I think
track as well as it has.
Yeah, I think they're like, I saw an article that James Cameron's like, this means like Avatar 3 is a go. Like this is, we're going with it, even though like the whole movie's shot. So it's like, of course, like I don't know how many more they have to hit, benchmarks to hit to get all like 6 Avatars going. But yeah, it's making a lot of money. I said, with all this being said, I mean, it beat Top Gun Maverick for the number 1 film of 2022. It beat that on the list there.
But here's the thing, James Cameron saying that, so if he doesn't hit these benchmarks, does that mean these other movies don't get made? Because if these two are the only 2 movies with no clear ending and no clear timeline for what the story is, I'm like afraid, why would I want to invest my time in this?
I think he has a plan, but it's like it's like everything that we've been seeing at this point. You can renew something and then you can shoot something, you could edit something, you could have everything done and it could still be canceled and then a tax write-off. Like,
I don't know. I would hate to invest all that time and then not see an actual end to the world that he's created. So you're going to create this world and then like leave it open, I guess, for what, future TV shows or whatever else they want to use in the future. I don't know.
Yeah, well, Kyle, if you don't want to watch any more Avatar, I mentioned Top Gun. They got something for you. Top Gun Maverick, they have their own 3-hour cut. 3 hours of the beach volleyball scene. They did a whole loop. You can put it on. It's on YouTube. You can watch the full 3-hour loop of the Top Gun Maverick beach volleyball or beach football scene.
Oh my God.
So that might be the next $1 billion franchise right there. There wasn't any beach football in Avatar: The Way of Water. They're on a beach, but couldn't have thrown Miles Teller in there as a Na'vi with his mustache.
He might be next next movie.
Might be next one in there. All right. Well, that concludes Avatar: The Way of Water. We'll see you again in another, 13, 14 years on for Avatar 3.
James Cameron will be dead at that point.
Well, I don't know. You might know the secret. He might have unobtainium or whatever they were looking for in the first, or in this one. They had some thing with the whales and they were extracting the serum to live forever or whatever.
Oh yeah.
He's just gonna upload his brain so he can turn into a Na'vi and then he can
probably
reincarnate and keep making them.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for this week. Next week we got an HBO show. We're gonna be talking about The Last of Us. Pedro Pascal will be looking at that, and then later this month, hard to believe, but Oscar nominations are going to be announced, and we'll talk about them as well. It's a new year, and we got some new stuff in the merch store. It's winter. You might want to, have a warm head. So we put some hats in here now, snapback, and a beanie as well. You could check those out. Yeah, so check out that new stuff in our merch store. You can find those links in our show notes and, of course, on our Linktree page. And you can find episodes of the podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the blog, dualredundancy.com, and of course, twitch.tv/Dual Redundancy. Monday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern. We're live on Twitch. And you can follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at Dual Redundancy. I got to thank both you guys tonight. We're going a little over talking about all these different things, for experimenting with Kaleidoscope, for coming with me for 3 hours plus at the Avatar IMAX screening. I couldn't do it without you guys. John directing the show, getting it up in your podcast players. Thank you guys.
Mm-hmm.
But until next time, I'm David Allen.
I'm John Berwick.
And I'm Kyle Bridger.
And that's all we got for Dual Redundancy. Goodbye, everybody.